Enzo and Jade's laughter echoed through the marble foyer as the morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Enzo brushed a stray strand of hair from Jade's face and smiled. "I still can't believe how lucky I am," he said, his voice soft. Jade leaned into him, her eyes bright. "Me too. This life, everything feels perfect." They shared a quick kiss before parting to begin their day. Enzo to a board meeting at his tech headquarters. Jade to oversee the new clothing line she'd launched online. Neither noticed the way the front door clicked behind them, heralding an unexpected guest. The house guest. 2 hours later, Jade returned home carrying grocery bags. On the couch, wrapped in a cashmere throw, sat Alina Bryan, Enzo's mother, her delicate features framed by a pale silk scarf. A small tissue lay crumpled in her hand. "Mother, you frightened me." "What happened?" Jade set down her bags and hurried over. Alina raised a trembling hand. "Oh, darling, I'm simply exhausted. A sudden fever." She managed a weak smile. "I thought it best if I stayed here for a few weeks until I'm fully recovered." Jade bit her lip but nodded. "Of course. You must rest." She led Alina to the guest suite, unpacking fresh towels and lighting lemon-scented candles. "I'll be right back with some chamomile tea." Alina watched Jade bustle away, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. As soon as the bedroom door closed, she slipped out of the throw, her posture straightening. In the adjoining study, a room usually reserved for Enzo's board paperwork, sat a sleek laptop, already open to a search page. She tapped quickly, fertility sabotage methods. A list of discreet, home-based tactics appeared, tampering with vitamin supplements, introducing luteal phase inhibitors via tea blends, even obscure herbal tinctures that could delay ovulation. Alina scrolled, her lips curling into a satisfied smile. She downloaded a PDF titled Undetectable Reproductive Interference. In the margins, she scribbled notes in elegant script. Add red clover extract to Jade's nightly herbal blend. Substitute prenatal vitamins with placebo tablets. Introduce small doses of Vitex Agnus Castus extract. Her phone buzzed. A message from Crystal Hart. "Ready when you are." Alina tapped out a reply. "Bring your suitcase. You'll move in once the house is yours." She paused, glancing at a framed photo on the desk. Enzo and Jade, arm in arm, the picture of marital bliss. A flash of contempt crossed her face. "Not for long," she whispered. Downstairs, Jade returned with 2 steaming mugs. She knocked gently on the study door. "Mother, I brought your tea. May I come in?" Alina closed the laptop and smoothed her skirt, slipping back into the throw before opening the door. "Thank you, my dear." She accepted the mug and took a delicate sip. "You're so thoughtful." Jade studied her for a moment. "Are you sure you want to be alone? I could stay with you." Alina waved her off. No. You have so much to do. I need some rest." A hint of unease passed over Jade's face, but she masked it with a smile. "If you need anything, just call." As Jade retreated, Alina set her cup on the desk and exhaled slowly. She reached for the stack of Jade's prenatal supplements, pill bottles lined up on a corner shelf, and replaced each capsule with identical-looking placebo pills she'd brought from home. With meticulous care, she labeled the bottles exactly as they had been. That evening, in the grand dining hall, Enzo joined them for a light supper. He draped an arm around Jade and kissed her temple. "How's my favorite homemaker?" he asked. Jade smiled, but her voice trembled, a bit worried about Mother. Enzo took her hand. "Don't worry. I've told her doctor to check on her tomorrow." He looked to Alina. "Rest well tonight, Mom." Alina inclined her head. "Thank you, son." Inside her mind, she replayed the steps she'd already set in motion. Baby steps, she thought. Jade would never see it coming. Later, alone in her suite, Alina opened her journal and wrote under today's date. Operation Bitter Nest, Phase 1 complete. Supplements swapped. Herbal plan drafted. Crystal arrives in 3 days. Jade's downfall imminent. She closed the journal with a satisfied snap. Outside, the mansion's lights glowed peacefully in the night, unaware that its perfect facade was already crumbling from within. Jade woke before dawn, as she did every morning, and padded quietly into the kitchen. The air smelled of fresh fruit and honey. Alina was already there, humming softly while she readied the blender. "Good morning, dear," Alina greeted, her voice warm. "I made your favorite berry banana smoothie." She handed Jade a tall glass. "Thank you, Mother," Jade said, smiling. She took a sip and felt an odd bitterness she couldn't place. She frowned but drank it all. "Delicious," she managed. Alina watched, eyes narrowed ever so slightly. After Jade left for work, she returned to the blender and opened a small amber bottle labeled levonorgestrel. With practiced ease, she shook a few crushed Plan B pills into the machine, stirring until invisible. "Silent poison," she murmured and locked the bottle away. 12 months later, a year passed in a swirl of hope and heartbreak. Every month, Jade and Enzo held their breath, only for the disappointment to return. Jade spent afternoons in doctors' offices, clutching her husband's hand as blood tests came back inconclusive. One sunny afternoon, in a waiting room of Dr. Oduro's clinic, Jade confided in her friend Amaka, a nurse. "Amaka, I don't understand. We've tried everything. Why can't I get pregnant?" Amaka reached across, squeezing her hand. "Jade, sometimes it takes time. Stress can delay things. Are you taking the prenatal vitamins regularly?" Jade held up the bottle. "Yes, but," she hesitated. "They taste weird, and lately I've been so tired." Amaka frowned. "I'll check with the lab, maybe run some additional tests." She patted Jade's knee. "Don't lose hope. Love grows cold." At home, Enzo's warmth had cooled. Where he once greeted her with kisses and plans for weekend getaways, he now spent long hours at the office and attended late-night board dinners. When he was home, his phone never left his hand. One evening, Jade set the table for two, a simple pasta with spinach and goat cheese. Enzo arrived, briefcase in hand. He glanced at the meal and nodded. "Thanks." He sat, opened his laptop, and began typing. Jade cleared her throat. "Enzo, can we talk?" He didn't look up. "Later, Jade." Her heart sank. "Please, He cut her off. "I'm busy." She forced a smile. "All right, I'll go to bed early." As she left the room, Alina watched from the doorway, a satisfied smirk on her lips. Rumors take flight. Alina decided it was time to widen the circle of shame. She, dressed in silk and pearls, sat at a vanity table and dialed her sister, Vivian. "Viv, darling, how are you?" she cooed. "Oh, splendid. Listen, I'm worried about Jade. It's been a year and no baby. You know Enzo would like an heir." Vivian stiffened. "A year? That's unusual. I hope it's nothing serious." "Oh, nothing serious," Alina said, her voice honeyed. "But perhaps Jade isn't cut out for motherhood. I intend to speak to her about alternatives." By week's end, whispers swirled through Enzo's elite circle. "I hear Mrs. Bryant may be unable to carry. It's such a shame." Alina made sure the family chauffeur overheard her lamenting over afternoon tea. The dinner of humiliation. When Alina invited the extended family to an elegant dinner at the mansion, Jade felt a knot in her stomach. The table was set with crystal goblets, polished silver, and candles that flickered like malevolent eyes. Enzo greeted her at the door, planting a quick peck on her cheek. "Look nice. Dinner's at 7. He gave no hint of warmth in his eyes. Jade slipped into her gown, a soft lavender sheath, and joined the guests in the dining hall. Her mother-in-law presided at the head of the table, radiating confidence. On Alina's right sat Vivian, and on her left, two family friends, Mrs. Eek and Mr. Olu. The first courses passed in polite silence. Alina raised her glass of champagne. "To family," she began, "and to the future." She scanned the faces. "Speaking of the future, I've been concerned." She turned to Enzo. "My son, you and Jade have been married 1 year. Yet we have no little Bryans to carry on our legacy." A murmur rippled around the table. Jade felt her face heat. Alina leaned forward. "Perhaps it's time you considered other options, darling." She touched Enzo's arm. "A woman who could give you children." Jade's breath caught. The chandelier trembled overhead, and every eye at the table seemed to pierce her. Her hands shook so badly the silverware rattled. Enzo cleared his throat, but said nothing. Mrs. Eek exchanged a sympathetic glance with Vivian. Mr. Olu shifted in his chair. Jade stood abruptly. Mother, how can you say such a thing? Alina's lips curved into a cold smile. I'm only looking out for my son's future and my grandson's inheritance. Enzo lowered his head. Jade's voice trembled with anger and shame. You humiliate me in front of my husband and his family. How dare you? Tears welled in Jade's eyes. The room felt impossibly bright and silent. No one spoke. Enzo remained still, neither defending her nor meeting her gaze. With a sob, Jade turned and fled the table. Her high heels clicked on the marble floor as she escaped through the double doors, leaving a stunned hush behind her. Aftermath. In the grand foyer, Jade sank onto a bench, her shoulders shaking. She pressed a hand to her mouth, fighting back tears. The house felt cavernous and cold without her company. Behind her, Alina watched from the doorway, arms crossed. Don't let it happen again, she called softly. Remember your place. Jade's fingers clutched the smooth wood of the bench. Her life, her marriage, her home, felt ripped away in a single moment. Upstairs, Enzo closed his laptop. He heard the front door slam. For a heartbeat, he stared at the empty hall. But he did nothing. The cook knocked gently on his door. Sir, should I send someone to check on Madam? Enzo exhaled. No, let her be. Downstairs, Jade pressed her forehead to the cool glass of the front door. Outside, the night air whispered freedom. But she stayed, rooted in grief and disbelief. In the wings of the mansion's opulence, the seeds of revenge and justice were quietly stirring, and Jade would soon realize nothing about her life was as it seemed. The replacement. In the days after the humiliating dinner, Alina decided the next phase of her plan must be swift and decisive. One bright morning, she descended the grand staircase wearing a crisp white blouse and a knowing smile. At the foot of the stairs stood Crystal Hart, a striking young woman with glossy hair and an air of confidence. Darling, Alina purred, this is Crystal, Vivian's daughter. She'll be staying here while she finishes her final year of university. Jade, who had just entered the hall carrying a tray of fresh juice, paused and offered a polite smile. Welcome, Crystal. Please make yourself at home. Crystal nodded, her eyes flicking toward Enzo, who had emerged from his study, looking every bit the doting host. Thank you, Mrs. Bryan, she said sweetly, then turned to Jade. I hope we'll be friends. That evening, while Jade prepared a simple dinner in the kitchen, Crystal slipped into the dining hall wearing a snug, off-the-shoulder dress and high heels. From the doorway, Jade watched as Enzo's mouth twitched with surprise. Crystal's laughter, low and melodic, filled the room. When Enzo lifted his glass of wine, Crystal leaned forward, letting her hair fall just so over her shoulder. I adore this vintage, she murmured, her gaze lingering on Enzo's lips. Over the next few days, Crystal's harmless flirting grew bolder. She asked Enzo to show her the rooftop garden, then pressed close as he explained the layout of rare orchids. One afternoon, she caught his arm and whispered, I've always admired successful men who know what they want. Enzo flushed but did not pull away. Jade, passing by the glass doors, noticed the way his hand remained on Crystal's waist. One night, Jade tiptoed toward the bedroom door to surprise Enzo with a cup of chamomile tea. The door was locked. She knocked gently. Enzo, it's me. Silence. Her heart pounded. She tried the knob. It wouldn't budge. A whisper of movement behind the door betrayed someone else inside. Shaking, Jade pressed her ear to the wood and heard Crystal's voice, soft and intimate. Let me show you. The couch. That night, Jade curled up on the velvet couch in the drawing room, clutching a pillow. The soft cushions were a poor substitute for her bed, but she dared not disturb the locked door. Outside, the house was silent, save for muffled laughter and the occasional click of crystal glasses in the master suite. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she realized her own husband had chosen another woman over her. Morning came too quickly. Jade rose at dawn and found Alina in the kitchen, arranging pastries on fine china. Alina glanced at her coolly. Your room is being repainted, she said briskly. Until then, I expect you to help with breakfast preparations. Jade swallowed her pride and fetched chopping boards, slicing fruit under Alina's strict eye. "Faster, dear, please. We have guests arriving." Alina barked orders with the ease of a general. "Fold those napkins. Polish the silver. And don't spill a drop of coffee." Jade worked in a haze, her hands trembling as she straightened the sugar bowls. When a small flake of coffee grounds fell on the counter, Alina snapped, "Honestly, Jade, try harder. You used to be competent." Jade's cheeks burned, but she said nothing. Enzo entered, phone in hand. He barely met her eyes. "Breakfast is almost ready," she ventured. He glanced at the clock. "I have a meeting in 20 minutes. I'm not hungry." Without a word, he strode past her and out the door, his tie slightly askew. Jade watched his retreating back, her heart sinking further. As the days wore on, Jade grew more alert to every whispered exchange between Crystal and Enzo. One afternoon, while clearing the study, she noticed a slender glass left on the desk. Its rim was stained with bright red lipstick. She held it up and saw tiny smudges of pink. Her breath hitched. Jade tucked the glass into a cloth and slipped it into her apron pocket. That night, when Crystal and Alina were deep in conversation in the guest suite, Jade crept into Crystal's room under the guise of delivering fresh towels. There, on a vanity table, sat Crystal's hairbrush, bristles threaded with loose strands. Jade gently tugged a few hairs free and pressed them into a small envelope she'd carried from her sewing kit. Her hands shook, but she managed a calm smile. "Here you go," she said lightly, handing Crystal the towels. Jade's pulse pounded as she retreated down the hall. In the privacy of the empty study, she placed the lipstick-stained glass, the hair sample, and a dropped earring she'd found on a cushion into a folder. She dropped a pin of her own hair inside, to serve as a control. The seed of an idea took root. She would prove what was happening and bring the truth to light. Early the next morning, Jade crept down to the library where she had once read bedtime stories to Enzo. She dialed the number of a private investigator, Detective Raymond Cole. His deep voice answered on the second ring. "Detective Cole," he said. Jade swallowed. "Mr. Cole, it's Jade, Bryan. I need your help. I believe my husband is involved with someone else, and my mother-in-law is behind it all." Later that day, Jade met Detective Cole in a small, nondescript office near Victoria Island. He wore a dark suit and lean expression. She placed a folder on his desk. "Lipstick, hair, even a broken earring," she said, her voice steady. "I want you to confirm if Crystal is seeing Enzo and find proof of what Alina is doing." Detective Cole opened the folder and examined each sample with professional calm. "This is a smart collection," he said. "I'll test the hair for DNA and fingerprints on the glass. I'll place surveillance on Crystal's room and track who comes and goes from your suite." He leaned back, meeting her gaze. "If there's something going on, we'll know soon." Jade exhaled, relief and fear mingling in her chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "I just want the truth." Detective Cole nodded. "I'll be in touch. Be careful. If Alina's suspects you're investigating, she may bury the evidence deeper." As Jade left the office, the Lego sun felt unusually bright. For the first time since Crystal's arrival, she felt a flicker of hope. No longer trapped on the couch or at the mercy of her in-laws, she would uncover their deceit. And when the truth came out, Alina and Crystal would have no choice but to face justice. In a mansion that had become her prison, Jade carried herself with new purpose, gathering courage and evidence, determined to reclaim her home, her husband, and her dignity. Episode 3 had tilted the power in Alina's favor, but Jade's quiet resistance was only beginning. Soon, the replacement's veil would be lifted and the real battle for her life would begin. The catch. Jade woke at dawn to the soft hum of the refrigerator. She lay still on the velvet couch in the drawing room, eyes closed, breathing evenly. The dim morning light filtered through the curtains, painting stripes on her face. Moments later, she heard Alina's heels clicking on the marble floor as she entered the kitchen. Jade held her breath, pretending to sleep. She heard Alina open a cabinet and place a glass of water on the countertop. Jade's heart pounded as she slipped one hand from beneath the blanket and tapped the record button on her phone, which lay hidden under the cushion. Alina moved with careful grace, her back to the couch. She withdrew a small glass vial from her silk purse, twisted off the lid, and shook out a fine, white powder into her palm. With a practiced flick of her wrist, she dropped the crushed pill into the water and stirred. Her movements were slow, almost ritualistic. "Soon, my dear," Alina whispered. "You'll be powerless." Jade's pulse raced. She quietly rose, wrapping the blanket around her shoulders, and crept toward the kitchen doorway. Alina, unaware, brought the glass to her lips and drank deeply. Jade had just enough time to record the powdered swirl in the clear water before Alina set the glass down. "Mother," Jade called, stepping into the kitchen in plain sight. Alina jerked as though stung, the shattered vial slipping from her hands and clinking on the tile. White powder spilled across the countertop. Alina's face paled, but she quickly masked her shock with feigned innocence. "Jade? I was just having a drink." Jade's eyes burned with anger and betrayal. She held up her phone. "Don't lie. I caught you on video dropping crushed pills into my water." She played the recording. The video showed Alina's back as she sprinkled the powder, then her startled expression as Jade entered. Alina's lips trembled. She spun, sending the glass flying. Water sloshed onto the floor. "This is ridiculous," she cried. "You're imagining things." Jade stepped closer, her voice steady. "Not imagining. I have lab results, too. The private investigator tested these pills. They're pure levonorgestrel, Plan B, crushed into a fine dust. You've been drugging me every morning for months." She opened her purse and pulled out an envelope. "Here, proof from Detective Cole." Alina's features hardened. She pointed a trembling finger at Jade. "You're defaming me. How dare you accuse me of such wickedness?" Jade felt tears prick at her eyes, but refused to give ground. "You don't get to twist this. The video, the lab tests, they show the truth." At that moment, a crash came from the master suite door. Enzo burst in, his hair mussed and eyes wide. "What's going on? Why is there water on the floor?" Jade turned to him, phone extended. "Watch this." She replayed the video. Alina shrank back, but Enzo's gaze shifted from his mother to the screen. "What is this?" he demanded, voice raw. Jade's voice trembled with controlled fury. "You've been keeping me drugged, so I can't get pregnant. Mother's been sabotaging me for a year." She held out the envelope. "These are lab results confirming what you just saw." Enzo stared at the paper, then at his mother. "Is this true?" His voice cracked. Alina opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked at her son with pleading eyes. "Enzo, save it," Enzo said, backing away. His face was ashen. "I need time." He turned and fled the kitchen. Alina sank to the floor, burying her face in her hands. Jade stood trembling, the blanket slipping. She watched Alina's shoulders shake with sobs, then turned away. The divorce. That afternoon, Jade packed a single suitcase with calm efficiency. Each folded garment, each item tucked away, felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. She left behind the silk gowns and designer shoes that felt stained by Alina's betrayal. She took only what she needed, a few changes of clothes, her laptop, and the file of evidence. She placed the suitcase by the front door and sat on the hallway bench, breathing deeply. Her lawyer, Mr. Attaboy, arrived in a crisp navy suit just as the sun dipped below the horizon. He gave her a sympathetic nod. "Jade, I have the court papers ready," he said quietly. Jade handed him the folder containing copies of the video, lab reports, and Detective Cole's statements. Mr. Attaboy arranged the papers on the bench. "We'll serve these tomorrow morning." The suit names Enzo and his mother for infertility sabotage, emotional abuse, character defamation, and psychological trauma. The media will pick it up immediately. Jade squeezed his hand. "Thank you. Let's make sure they pay for what they did." The next day, process servers delivered the documents to Alina and Enzo at the mansion. The sight of stern-faced men approaching the Laurel Line Drive was surreal. Enzo opened the door himself, reading the summons in stunned silence. Alina appeared behind him, her face drained of color. By noon, news of the lawsuit had leaked to the tabloids. Social media exploded with hashtags. Hashtag bitterness scandal. Hashtag justice for Jade Bryant. Hashtag infertility sabotage. Major news outlets ran banners. Billionaire's wife files shocking suit against mother-in-law. Lagos mansion drama. Tech tycoon named in court case. Jade watched the coverage in a small apartment she had rented in Victoria Island. She sat at a modest dining table, sipping tea, as her phone buzzed nonstop. Notifications poured in. Messages of support from friends, interview requests from journalists, and angry comments directed at Alina's social profiles. Later that afternoon, Mr. Attaboy called. The press conference is set for tomorrow at 10 a.m. We've prepared a statement. Are you ready? Jade nodded, though he couldn't see her. Yes, I'm ready. The national scandal. At 10 a.m. the following morning, a line of cameras and reporters filled the entrance of the Lagos High Court. Jade stood at a podium beside her lawyer, dressed in a simple, elegant navy suit. Behind her, banners read Justice for Jade Bryan and Stop Infertility Sabotage. Mr. Attaboy stepped forward and introduced her. Ladies and gentlemen, we gather today not just to pursue a legal remedy, but to shed light on a form of abuse many women endure in silence. Jade inhaled and lowered her eyes briefly. Then, in clear, unwavering tones, she spoke. My name is Jade Matthew Bryan. For the past year, I lived a nightmare in my own home. My mother-in-law secretly drugged me with contraceptive pills, robbing me of the chance to become a mother. She defamed my character, spread lies to friends and family, and humiliated me in my own marriage. I bring this suit not only to seek justice for myself, but to protect every woman who might face similar betrayal. The crowd erupted in shudder clicks and murmurs. Reporters shouted questions. How did you discover the plot? What penalties are you seeking? Do you expect Enzo to testify? Jade answered with poise. Evidence has been submitted to the court. I ask for damages for emotional suffering, medical costs, and defamation. I trust the justice system will hold them accountable. Within hours, every major news site in Nigeria carried the story. Television talk shows dissected the case. Panelists debated the boundaries of familial loyalty and cruelty. Opinion columns appeared under bold headlines. When mothers-in-law become monsters, the right to reproductive freedom. Is wealth a shield for abuse? Meanwhile, Enzo and Alina retreated from public view. Their social media accounts went silent. Enzo released a brief statement through a spokesperson. I'm deeply sorry for the pain Jade has suffered. I will fully cooperate with the court and respect the legal process. Alina's lawyer issued a denial of wrongdoing, calling the allegations baseless and malicious. But the public's reaction was swift and unforgiving. Supporters of Jade rallied, sharing her story and offering resources to other women. A prominent women's rights coalition announced plans to petition Parliament for stronger laws against reproductive abuse. Back in her apartment that evening, Jade closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair. Messages of encouragement scrolled across the screen. You are brave, Jade. Thank you for speaking out. We stand with you. Though the road ahead was uncertain, Jade felt a fierce sense of liberation. She had escaped the poisoned nest her mother-in-law had built. She had forced the truth into the harsh light of day, and the world was watching. In the quiet that followed the storm, Jade whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning, but I will win." And so the bitter nest lay exposed, cracked open by courage, evidence, and the unbreakable will of a woman determined to claim her justice. Compensation and karma. The morning sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the Lagos High Court as the judge prepared to deliver her ruling. Jade sat beside her lawyer, Mr. Attaboy, heart pounding. Across the aisle, Enzo and Alina looked tense, faces pale. The judge cleared her throat. In the case of Matthew Bryan versus Bryan and Company, the court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Ms. Jade Matthew Bryan. The defendants are guilty of willful infertility sabotage, emotional abuse, defamation, and psychological trauma. Jade closed her eyes and exhaled slowly as the judge continued. The defendants shall pay Ms. Matthew Bryan damages in the amount of 500 million Nigerian nairas to be transferred to her account within 30 days. Additionally, Ms. Matthew Bryan is granted full ownership of the luxury apartment formerly titled in joint names, on Bishop, a boy at Cole Street. Finally, the defendants are ordered to issue a public apology on their verified social media platforms within 48 hours. A soft gasp rippled through the courtroom. Jade felt her shoulders relax for the first time in years. She dared to glance at Enzo, whose face had drained of color. Alina sat rigid, her hands knotted in her lap. Mr. Attaboy stood and extended a hand to Jade. "Congratulations," he whispered. "You've won." Jade allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed as Jade emerged, flanked by Mr. Attaboy. A journalist called out, "Ms. Matthew Bryan, how do you feel?" Jade raised her chin. "Relieved and hopeful," she said calmly. "This verdict is not just about me. It's about every woman whose trust was betrayed. I hope it sends a message. Emotional and reproductive abuse will not go unpunished." Behind her, Enzo and Alina tried to slip away. Crystal, standing nearby in a chic black dress, watched with cold eyes. When a cameraman asked her for a comment, she stepped forward. "I want to apologize to Jade," Crystal said quietly. "I didn't know what was really happening. I will move out and never contact Enzo again." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving behind a stunned hush. Enzo's driver opened the door to a black SUV. Enzo climbed in, head down, ignoring his mother's trembling hand as she reached for him. "Enzo," she whispered, but he lowered the window. "I'm embarrassed." But he drove off before she could finish. Alina stood on the sidewalk, tears streaming down her cheeks as passers-by stared and shook their heads. No one offered comfort. In that moment, she realized her social invitations would dry up, her friends would avoid her, and her reputation lay in ruins. A week later, Alina was rearrested on criminal charges for spiking Jade's drink. She stayed in a holding cell indefinitely as she awaits her trial. The rebirth. 2 weeks later, Jade stood on a small stage in the community center she had rented. The banner behind her read, "Rebirth Foundation, Healing Hearts, Restoring Hope." Chairs were filled with women of all ages, many wearing shirts printed with the woman who fought back. Jade tapped the microphone. "Welcome," she began, voice confident and warm. "My name is Jade Matthew Bryan. A few months ago, I faced betrayal and abuse in the very home I thought was my sanctuary. Today, I stand before you stronger because I chose to fight back." Applause filled the room as Jade continued. "The Rebirth Foundation will provide counseling, legal assistance, and safe housing for women who suffer emotional or reproductive abuse. No one should endure what I went through in silence." After her speech, she stepped down to greet attendees. A young woman approached, eyes shining. "Thank you," she said. "You've given me hope to leave my own toxic marriage." Jade squeezed her hand. "You're not alone. We'll walk this path together." Later, in a small office off the stage, Jade met with her foundation's first board members, a psychologist, a human rights lawyer, and a financial officer. "We have the court fund secured," the lawyer, Mr. Naji, reported. "We can start the legal aid clinic next month." The psychologist, Dr. Aduak, smiled. "I'll set up counseling groups right away. We need to hire at least 2 more therapists." Jade nodded. "And I'll launch our social media campaign, testimonials, resources, fundraising events. We'll call it #RebirthStrong. The financial officer added, "With the apartment we own now, we can use 1 floor as temporary housing. That's 5 rooms immediately available." Jade's heart swelled. "Perfect. Let's get to work." The final scene. Months passed. Jade's TED Talk went viral. "How Betrayal Became My Superpower." Her story resonated worldwide. Empowered women shared their own experiences under her hashtag. Foundations in other countries reached out to partner. One evening, in the quiet of his now-empty mansion on Glover Road, Enzo sat alone in the grand living room. The chandeliers were off. The space felt cavernous. He clicked the remote, turning on the large flat-screen TV. The familiar red TED logo filled the screen. A soft voice began, "Hello, I'm Jade Matthew Bryan. I used to be defined by my suffering." The camera panned to Jade on a well-lit TED stage, her face composed and luminous. Enzo's chest tightened as he watched. Hazel eyes narrowed as Jade spoke of reclaiming her voice, helping others rebuild their lives, and turning pain into purpose. He saw footage of the community center filled with laughing women, of children coloring in bright reentry rooms, of lawyers advising survivors in glass-walled offices. Tears pricked Enzo's eyes, guilt and regret swirling. He remembered the look on Jade's face at the dinner where she fled in shame, the way she packed her bag that sad afternoon, and how she had grown into a leader. He realized he had lost not just a wife, but a force for good. On the mantel stood family photos, now dusty, of Enzo and Jade in happier times. He reached for one, their wedding day, smiling beneath white arches bedecked with orchids. He traced her face in the photograph, his finger trembling. Below the TV, the living room remained silent. The lawsuit press clippings on his desk echoed her triumph. Nigerian IRA 500M awarded. Women's Advocate rises. Alina's social calendar lay empty. Crystal's goodbye note in his study said merely, "I'm sorry." Enzo pressed play again on the TED Talk's final lines. When life tries to keep you down, rise up. Your voice matters. Together, we can rebuild our worlds with love, justice, and courage. The talk ended to a standing ovation. Enzo remained seated, tears rolling down his cheeks. The empty room reflected his solitude. His phone lay next to him, a blinking message from his PR team. Public apology ready to post? He stared at the screen, unable to press send. All around him, the ghosts of what he'd lost lingered. Outside the mansion's gates, the city lights of Lagos glittered, a reminder that life moved on. In that final moment, Enzo realized that while he had everything money could buy, the one thing he truly valued, Jade, was gone, reborn into a new life of purpose. As the credits to Jade's TED Talk rolled, he whispered to the empty room, "She really was the strongest of us all."